right, welcome to Newcastle Muso Talk. My name is Simon Threadgate. I'm going to be your host for what I hope are going to be interesting conversations with people in the local scene, not just musos, but booking agents, sound engineers, people involved in the music industry, mostly musicians. That's my prime interest. But the idea essentially is that we're just going to have a chat to some people who do creative, musical, cool stuff, and sort of get a handle on how they got to do that, how they continue to do that, how they maintain that, how much of that is what they do, and how much of that is just a part of what they do, and how they fit that in with everything else that you have to do in the modern life. Just get a handle on how these people continue to find that drive to keep making something, creating something, sharing that with someone, even when there's at times minimal rewards, minimal sort of outlets for you to get that creativity heard. So that's really what the show's about, is just talking to people who do continually run headlong into that brick wall of creativity and find out what keeps them going. So our first interview is with Troy Scerri. Troy, fantastic guitar player, played in Mortal Sin, White Trash, a bunch of other, like 500,000 other bands along the way. Grew up in Sydney. Currently plays in a band called Neptune Power Federation. Also plays in Buffalo Revisited. Played in a Newcastle band, East Coast Low, very recently, with Jeff Mullard, who we're going to talk to in a later episode. But just a really cool guy, Troy, really great guitar player. He's been active as a musician for at least 30 years now, playing relatively consistently, live, studio stuff, different bands. Real interesting conversation. So have a listen, check it out. If you have any suggestions or feedback on what we can do differently or better, anything like that, this is our first show, so let us know if there's anything we can do better. But have a listen to the chat with Troy. Hope you enjoy it. Cheers. From Sydney originally? That's your general background
born
there?
And bred.
Yeah.
And then escaped.
How long ago did you escape?
2010.
Yeah. I was going to say, it probably would have been around the time I first met you.
I was living in Maryville, I think, so that was when I very first moved here.
Yeah, cool. What's the sort of music that you were raised on before you got into metal and all that sort of stuff that your parents sort of brought you up on?
Yeah, my mum had an all right record collection, and my dad sort of. My dad's was a bit more eclectic. There was some good stuff and some dross. I was just obsessed by it when I was a kid. Like, Mum had put singles on. She had heaps of 45s. And, apparently when I was a little kid, I'd just lose my shit every time she put music on. So I guess it's unsurprising. I remember my uncles and aunties and they'd come around and go, he's going to be a DJ or something when he gets older for sure. Like, just goes nuts.
Was it always sort of guitar that you were drawn to originally?
Well, she was into all guitar bands anyway. It was all like... Beatles, Easy Beats, heaps of Aussie stuff. I remember like crap like Johnny Young and that, but lots of 60s garage sort of bands like the Australian band The Throb. I remember that, having the single of that. Trying to think what else there was. There's a few songs that have just stuck with me. Jefferson John, The ID. There's a handful of songs that... Yeah, I'm like, oh shit, my mum had that record when I was like 5 or something like that, you know. That kind of thing. So, there's a handful of songs like that that take me back to that, being a little kid.
In that period,
Yeah.
When did you start to transition into the metal sort of stuff? What was the sort of...
not till later. When I was a kid, like, Kiss were really big and all my friends at school loved them. And I thought they were rubbish.
I never got Kiss. So.
Yeah, I sort of like them now, sort of. But I liked all the shit my parents still liked. I was into... My dad liked the Stones and Zeppelin, so I was into that.
Yeah.
And I dug Elvis and I loved the Beatles. I was just absolutely obsessed with them when I was a kid.
You're a Beatles man over the old Beatles versus Rolling Stones. You go the Beatles on that one?
Yeah. I was just... It was weird. So all the standard music that kids were into my age when we were like 8, 9, 10, 11, I just wasn't into it. And then, I'd listen to stuff on the radio and I remember liking some stuff. I remember buying a Devo record, probably around 1980. And then I started playing guitar, so I was getting drawn to more guitar music, you know, that sort of thing. And then Iron Maiden Run to the Hills was like top 10 in Australia, and that was it.
That was a big...
Yeah, my best mate, his dad bought the album, and we were just like, what the hell is this? So we were just gone. I think we'd started getting into AC/DC and stuff at that point as well. We were pretty into them, me and a handful of friends. I remember 3 of us all went to the record shop one day, and we all had money to buy a record, and we all bought a record each, a different AC/DC record, and bought a blank cassette. Yeah. So we could take the other 2. Yeah. I bought the light, like, if you want blood, you got it. Yeah. One of the other guys bought like Highway to Hell. Someone bought TNT. So we were pretty set from there. Yeah. But yeah, when Maiden came out, that Run the Hills was like,
hit the goals, hit the mark,
and we just that got me down the road to heavy metal pretty much. It was like, and I remember there was a TV show on called Rock Arena, and they had a metal special, and that must have been like 83. Yep. And it was like Def Leppard, Motorhead, Girl School.
Yeah. That British new wave.
Yeah. And Maiden, obviously. Yeah. And I remember a friend recorded that, and we were just like, fuck, all these bands, you know, what the hell? This is great.
And how long was that sort of till you started then moving into playing music? Was that...
I was playing by then. Yeah. There was me and 2 friends, and we didn't have a bass player. I just played rhythm guitar.
Just went straight into a band, or you sort of spent a time learning a bit?
Oh, yeah, like kind of. I'd been playing guitar about a year, but I was terrible. Like I couldn't play an F chord or anything. Yeah. But, you know, you can play dozens of AC/DC songs with 4 chords, so... Away we went, you know, and my mate, he sang and played guitar, and his dad was a bass player, and he was a pretty talented guy, and same with the drummer. Like, he started playing drums when I started playing guitar, but he had the natural knack for it.
Yeah.
And he just, was a really talented drummer, and so...
Yeah, it was just thrash metal, obviously, when you first started out, or
AC/DC songs. That was it. Like, we were probably like 11 or something.
Got to walk before you run, sort of thing.
Yeah. We didn't even know what thrash was at that point. This is probably like 1983, 82. Like, and we played a few parties for friends and stuff like that. Yep. And I've got a photo at home of us playing in a garage in front of a bunch of oldies, and it's like New Year's Day 1984.
Yep.
So... Yeah, I've got a Flying V, and the Flying V looks absolutely massive on me.
Yeah.
My first electric guitar.
That was your first, a Flying V. That's a good start, man.
Vantage Flying V. Walked in the shop. And Dad said, "You got $200," and it was like a blue Vantage on the wall for $250, and I begged and pleaded and got lucky.
Got to get the extra 50.
Yeah, so cool. It was a lot of money at the time. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
it'd be like my kid going now, give me, $700 or $800 to go buy a guitar. I'd be like, what?
Unlikely.
Yeah.
Obviously, you enjoyed doing the bands. You've been in about 100 bands. Have you ever done a count of how many bands you've been in? What's some of the names? And then...
I got interviewed probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I had to rattle off every band name, and I still forgot one or two. And there's been a few more since that interview, so I don't know. It'd be like 30.
30 plus, yeah.
But I've been playing 30 years, and... like in bands, like gigging bands in pubs for 30 years, and at stages I was on the dole doing 4 bands at once because I was just like, well, I'm working part time in a recording studio and had all this spare time on my hands, and I just wanted to gig, so it was like, well, there's not enough gigs in Sydney, so I'll just join 4 bands.
Get around.
Yeah.
Did you have a favourite of all those bands? Like
there's certain bands that are just, Like,
obviously some would be better for the music, and then others were better for the good times that you had in the band.
Daredevil was kind of both of those things.
Yeah. I got the sense that was sort of more the most of your input into a band. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sort of. It was pretty even, really. Me and the other guitarist wrote the bulk of the music, although the bass player and drummer did write music as well.
Yeah.
And Dave wrote all the lyrics because I'm the worst lyricist to ever walk the earth. It's just woeful. I know my strengths. Lyrics ain't it.
Yeah. That was sort of a good
time.
But
that was like, I don't know, that band was just... I dug the songs we did, and there was just some weird chemistry where it was just way too much fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, we didn't even give a crap if the gigs were like 10 people. It was like just rehearsing was a ball.
Were a lot of them 10, or were you getting...
No, we got lucky and got
Yeah, yeah.
pretty good straight off the bat, like good crowds. Like after about 4 or 5 shows, we supported Monster Magnet for like our 6th show. So we're playing in front of a sold-out Metro Theatre, which was
and you
pretty
did the Channel
bizarre.
V slot as well with Daredevil, is that right? Yeah,
What was that, sorry?
A live go on Channel V with
Yeah,
Daredevil
we
as
played
well?
live on Channel V, and you know, we played Fu Manchu and did a few international supports and stuff. Like, got signed really quick, and you know, like, yeah, that was kind of cool. But heaps of the fun times were just us in a rehearsal room. Like, we'd just get in this tiny room at sound level, and it didn't matter. It was just as much fun as the gigs. Like, playing music with those 4 guys was pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah. What stopped that?
Life gets in the way.
It does, doesn't it?
You know, I moved up here. Everyone had kids.
Yeah.
We'd been doing it a long time. Crowds were drifting off, and we just kind of went, well, how about we just get together and we'll jam once every blue moon? And that's pretty much what happens, although it's been a couple of years since we did that.
So it's not dead and buried, obviously. It's still
Oh,
when you
we'll
can
never-
have a run, you can. But
I doubt we'd ever gig again, but yeah, we'll probably have another jam. It's like, because we want to catch up with each other, and it's like, well, we could go to the pub and drink beer, or we could just go to a studio and make a hell of a racket and drink beer.
Yeah.
Well, let's go do that. So,
are you still writing songs and filing away going, that'll be a Daredevil song one day, or that's not in the picture anymore?
I was for a little while, but I think maybe last time or the time before we had a jam, we sort of mucked around with a couple of riffs. But it's just, we've got enough songs. There's like, I don't know, 30 odd songs, and we can't even remember half of those.
Yeah.
We get halfway through and go, oh shit, what's that next riff? And
Yeah.
hopefully someone remembers, and it all is like riding a bike.
Yeah. Well, going back to your thrash metal, sort of your early bands, it was sort of a quick transition from that Akadaka then into the heavier stuff.
Yeah. When you're 13, 14, 15, it was like you just want everything heavier and faster.
Yeah.
So, hearing Motorhead was like, oh, geez, listen to that. The first couple of times, it sounds like noise. And then, there's something cool going on here. And then, some kid came up to me, I reckon I was in year 9, it would have been like 1984 or 5 or something, and 85 maybe. And he said, oh, you should hear this band Metallica. And, if you like Motorhead and stuff, you're going to love them, And I couldn't find their records anywhere because they were imports only, and your local record shop didn't have any of that. You'd have to catch a train into town to buy any of that stuff. And actually, our local record shop did have a very limited import section.
Yeah.
So I went in there one day, you got any Metallica? And the guy goes, no, we don't have any of this. But you might like this. And it was the first Anthrax album.
Yeah, cool.
So I bought that and went, oh, yeah, I really like some of this.
Yeah.
And then...
They can be a divisive one, Anthrax. It's not for everyone, the old Anthrax.
Yeah.
You're into it, but
I dug that first one. It didn't blow me away, but I liked it. But I wanted to check out more stuff like that. And then some kid did me a tape. This older guy I knew, and it was like, I still remember, it was like 3 Metallica songs, a couple of Venom songs, Slayer. Yeah. And I remember seeing the Slayer ads in Hit Parader magazine back in the day when I was a kid, and going, this band looked like there's something going on here. And ordering in Horton the Chapel, and like waited like 9 weeks and went, where's this record? Oh, we can't get it.
Yeah.
It was like, ugh. So, I didn't hear Slayer until, it wasn't that, probably much longer after Anthrax, actually. I went back there and went, what else you got like this? You got anything a bit heavier? And
this is still early 80s, like pre-86.
Yeah, the 85, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I looked at this, and I went, oh, that's that Slayer band I was trying to get their record of. And, import records are expensive.
Yeah.
They were like $2 or $3. And, I'm on pocket money rations. And, so I sprung the extra money and bought Hella Weights.
Yep.
And went, whoa, this is something else altogether.
Yeah. Did you start to see like a flick on with the switches in bands locally? That was just the go for everyone? Or
yeah, that was it. I was just like, then someone told me about Utopia Records. I didn't even know it existed. And then, ventured in there and just was overwhelmed. I can't even remember what I bought the first time I went in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember buying 7 Churches pretty early.
It's always still pretty overwhelming going in there, so they've just got so much.
It was a tiny little shop. It was like a shoebox of a store back then in the 80s. It was in this little dingy arcade in Martin Place, and got lost trying to find it. The Christian Science reading room was across the hall, which was quite amusing.
An interesting combination of customers.
Yeah.
Who was your sort of guitar heroes that you started to pick up as you got earlier, like Kerry King and Hanneman and all that sort of stuff? Or?
Before that was like Hendrix.
Yep.
I loved Malcolm Young. I just loved his guitar sound. I loved all the rhythm on the AC/DC stuff.
The guitar was more of that 70s stuff, and then you sort of ran it through the metal filter as you sort of got a bit more into that.
Randy Rhoads, like buying those. I actually didn't even have Diary of Madman for years. The first Aussie solo album, I was just like, what the hell, that. And I had bought, the first guitar mag I ever bought was a Guitar Player, like an anniversary thing for when he died. Like they did some special issue, and I remember reading that, going, this guy seems totally cool, and then going out and buying the first Aussie record and went, man, what the hell's this?
Yeah.
I think I heard that before I heard Van Halen or anything, so I was more into him. And then James Hetfield. Not many of the thrash guys. Like I dug the riffs more for thrash than the lead playing.
That explains Hetfield then. That fastest right hand in the West sort of deal.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I just remember jamming along to Kill 'Em All and Show No Mercy.
Yeah.
Like big time. Just trying to learn all those riffs.
Yeah.
Hours when you're a determined 15-year-old with no friends and you've only got a guitar and an amp and sit in your room brooding and playing metal and hating the world.
Did you ever try and knock over Eruption?
Yeah, had a crack at that. I used to be able to play the finger tapping part all through the middle of it, but I can't do it now, I don't think.
You were saying before your old man bought you a guitar, it sounds like your parents were pretty supportive of you doing musical stuff, yeah?
Sort of. I wanted to play drums at first. They didn't want to borrow that shit. And my uncle even played drums and was selling his drum kit and lived up the road, and my mum's brother, and I was like, can I have it? And they're like, fuck no. Why would we do that to ourselves? You got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Little did they know I would discover Marshall amps and it'd be even louder.
Did you have a musical family growing up, or like
No, they were into music, but none of them played anything.
Yeah.
Dad was pretty tone deaf when he'd sing.
Yeah.
And like me, I inherited that.
So in terms of what do you do in the bands that you're in now, what projects are you currently doing now? You've got Neptune Power Federation. Is the main focus? And
that's main focus.
Yeah.
I play guitar in Buffalo Revisited when that happens.
Yep.
Which is occasionally.
As we were saying before, that's pretty much sort of wrapping up now at the moment, though.
Who
potentially.
Knows? Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even if it doesn't, gigs don't come fast and furious. We did 2 shows last year, done 1 show this year.
Are you looking for other bands? Are you always looking for new projects, or you sort of get a couple going and
you're
happy with that?
I haven't looked for anything for ages. I haven't. It's just if someone asks me.
Yeah.
The last thing I actually looked for was probably jam with up here with Annie and Mick, because I wanted to do something out of my comfort zone.
Yep.
I thought I'd give that a crack.
How'd that work out?
It was good. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It made me play really different, and it's good to sort of put yourself in unfamiliar territory at times instead of relying on the same old cliched stuff.
Yeah.
And I did East Coast Low. That was the same sort of deal up here. That was like, I want to put myself out of my comfort zone a bit, but I'd had all these riffs I'd been building up for years, like 20 years of like, that's a cool riff. Shame it sounds like a power pop band. Like I can't really use that in anything. And then it just would stay stuck in my head anyway. So I went, it must be something. It must be an idea worth pursuing, I guess.
It's very 90s Australian alternative, I get the feel. Like I was listening to it today, it reminds me a lot of the Idiot Box soundtrack with like bands like Hoss and Crow and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess. A little bit. But, that's, I guess, what I was listening to in the 90s too. I got pretty burnt out on metal and, it was still into heavy music, but just not into metal as such. And funnily enough, we played a few gigs with Hoss in the 90s, and they were an amazing band.
Yeah, I missed a lot of that stuff. Like the Idiot Box soundtrack's probably my best connection to that sort of stuff. Is there a point at this point in your life now where you think that you would do music for? Like, is that even a goal to do music as the thing you do, or it's just
not? It hasn't been for.
Yeah. Was there a point where you were like, "This is what I'm doing. I'm going fucking flat chat at doing this"?
The late 90s, when I was in my late 20s, I was in 4 bands. I was working in a recording studio a couple of days a week, rehearsal recording studio, and I just got sick of working a day job and just basically quit my day job. Went on the dole and went, bugger this. I'm going to somehow make this work to pay the bills.
Yeah.
didn't work. I just ended
How
up
long did you sort
I
of
sold
ride
lots of
it for?
guitars. A while, because I got, funnily enough, not long after I did that, I reckon it must have been about 3 weeks. It wasn't long at all after that happened. I got asked to join Mortal Sin, did an Australian tour with them.
Yeah.
So
That'd sort of be your first splash on the national scene, would be Mortal Sin.
No, I toured nationally a few years before that with a band called White Trash.
Yep. I think that's the earliest band I've seen photos of you on Facebook.
Yeah, we toured a fair bit. I was
stuff.
like 18 when I joined that band.
Yeah.
And
so that was a band already going that you joined in? Or was
they hadn't gigged at that point. I actually replaced a guitarist called Steve Edmonds, who you may know that plays around up here all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was...
It's funny the metal guys going to do totally non-metal stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he wasn't really a metal guy, but he knew all those guys and he liked some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think he was a big Deep Purple fan or something.
Yeah,
and, so it wasn't a totally foreign point of reference.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he obviously went on to, play Hendrix covers.
Yeah, something a bit different.
Forever, I guess.
So I guess financially, projects are not the finances aren't a concern as such. You're just literally looking for stuff you enjoy doing now.
Yeah, totally. I just, after that, like, even by the time I hit, like, Daredevil, when we got together, it was like, well, we've all had our go at giving, those guys were a couple of years older than me, and we all looked at each other and went, let's just get a band together we like doing and play a gig once a month at the Iron Duke in front of 30 of our mates. That was the goal.
Yeah.
And that happened like twice, and then all of a sudden we're getting off of these shows and record deals and that. And we're like, huh? This wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And it was just... So that became a bit of a schism at the time of the band because I was a bit younger and I was the only one without kids. No, I wasn't the only one, but I didn't have kids and a few of the guys did. So I was like, bugger it, we're getting offered all these chances. Let's just tour and go for it. And they're like, we've got life to deal with.
Yeah. So is that when you sort of transition on to doing more, like what's the timeline there of going from White Trash through to Mortal Sin? How'd you get picked up by them?
The drummer from Mortal Sin, when he got... The original drummer that played on their big albums, when he got fired from Mortal Sin, put together a band, which was White Trash. And not long before he got fired, Mortal Sin were rehearsing for the Metallica tour in this film studio, I think it was, at Lane Cove. And I was playing in this punk band when I was like 17, and they were older dudes, and they knew Mortal Sin, and we went along to watch them rehearse, and we get there, and they've stopped rehearsing, half the guys have buggered off. And the drummer was there, and I think Mick Burke was there. That might have been it. Yeah. And so we just got up and started jamming. Yeah. And I remember playing them a couple of riffs I had, and Wayne just kind of went, there's something there. And then I left that punk band maybe a month or two after that and wasn't doing anything musically at all for a few months, and then got a phone call saying, off Wayne, going, do you want to come and have a jam? We've got this band going on. I was like, whoa, shit, this is a step up in the world for an 18-year-old kid from the suburbs.
Yeah.
So, because he'd done, they were supporting Metallica 6 months ago, it was a bit of a big deal. So, I went and had a jam with those guys and got in and wrote
Things
songs.
Got a bit more professional at that point in terms of being involved in the business, or it was you were just...
I got a little bit more professional. We had a manager, and all of a sudden there was tours, and I was getting an itinerary of like, okay, well, we're doing this, and there's X amount of money and floating around and this, that, the other. So it was, wasn't really more professional, but it was organised at least. Yeah. It wasn't just throwing crap at a wall and seeing what sticks. It was okay, we're going to do an East Coast tour, so we're doing Brisbane this weekend. Yep. We're going to do Gosford, Sydney, then go to Melbourne, then go to Adelaide. Yep.
No trouble with finding venues or anything like that at the time?
Well, we had a manager to do it all, so it didn't matter. But there was just, so many more gigs then, because the pub scene was a different thing altogether. Yeah.
This would have still been pre-Booze Bus and all that sort of stuff.
No, Booze Buses were around. That had only been in a few years, so they'd had already put a dampener on it, according to the people older than myself. Yep. But no pokies. Yeah. Pokies weren't a thing yet. They had card machines, and you could only win $100. Yeah. And it was a lot. Yeah, so... And they weren't as profitable. And so people that owned pubs back then, it was more like a family sort of business. It wasn't like now where it's owned by corporate conglomerates to for their portfolio. That wasn't a thing. It was this labour of love by some guy that always wanted to own a pub. And they couldn't put pokies in there, and they weren't really there was no family friendly pubs. That wasn't even a thing. So it was like, well, how are we going to get people in? So the bands were an obvious thing. They'd put bands in there, and there was no internet, mobile phones, or anything like that. So pubs were like a meeting place, and if you were into music,
that's where you go.
That was where you'd go. And people would just go anyway. Like, people would just go, well, there's nothing happening. Some of my friends, we might meet a cute guy at the pub or something, and we'll go, I don't mind those long-haired types. We'll go down the pub, or whatever. It was just, it was a totally different thing. It was, like my first local band when I was 16 playing in pubs, we were like getting, on average, probably 80 to 100 people for a gig.
Yep.
And we were playing pretty much every second week in Sydney, and we didn't have a record out. We didn't have a demo out. We were playing heaps of covers because we were terrible songwriters. So we'd sort of like do half and half, I think. But, and we were crap. But you could still pull people. We did create some sort of vibe because we were young and enthusiastic. So we did have that going for us. But
what do you think's changed in terms of venues, the public culture in general? Do you find that there's less people? That's always...
Oh, there's totally less people.
What do you
the culture's totally
that?
different. It's I always used to say, this is what the jazz guys must have felt like in the 60s.
Before everyone got hip to it.
Yeah, just watching everything die, you know, like watching their crowds dwindle, because there's so much other competition for your entertainment dollar now. You've got Netflix, you've got, shit, we didn't, back then you had a VHS player. That was all you had.
With one or two movies that you've got.
And free-to-air TV was all there was. And, even with the movies, you'd have to wait like a year until they'd come out on VHS or some crap. You know, it was... So, you had cinema, like Temping Bowling or something, roller skating or some crap like that. It was just... Or you'd go out for dinner or whatever. But there was no internet, no pokies in pubs or anything like that. Pokies were what the old people played at RSLs, the Blue Rinse set. I'll play me pension on the one-arm bandits, that kind of thing.
Yeah, how do you find, do you get to many gigs locally? Like, what are your thoughts sort of on the local scene at the moment? Is there...
I have no idea, which is really terrible, because I used to really, really, really make it a thing to support the scene. That was always... And I was always disgusted in bands that wouldn't. I thought it appalling. So I was like, especially when I lived in Newtown, there was all these pubs that had gigs for free, especially the Sando. So it was like, well, what am I going to do? Sit here and watch, whatever crap free-to-air TV, or I can just go up the pub and see whatever band's happening, and I'll put $6 or $7 over the bar and have 2 beers and go home. And that was what I used to do, like 2 or 3 nights a week if I wasn't gigging. So, and Sydney was so happening in the early 90s. You used to go to 3 shows a night. You'd go to the Hopetown is shut at 12, go to the Lansdowne, watch bands till 2, and if you're really motivated, you'd go in the Cross and watch bands till 4 a.m.
There's nothing, as you say, there's nothing like that now to even do, especially locally here. Even in Sydney, it'd be completely different now.
Sydney's the same as here. Newcastle's got a pumping scene, really, for the population. It's pretty great. Sydney's pretty awful, like... it's pretty disappointing.
Is it even possible to, as a musician, to make a living doing music without doing the pub circuit and tour, just doing covers all week, or going away and touring extensively? Like, is there a way that you can do that?
No, unless you've got a song on Triple J. No. Because you can't do that now. Triple J, when it went national, did give you the opportunity to, if you got airplay, to play these shitty little towns that you sort of couldn't play. Like, we did play them in White Trash. Oh, man, it was so hit and miss. It wasn't even funny. We nearly got run out of town in Orange. It was...
Was that you just boys being getting up to a bit of mischief?
No,
or they just didn't like
the locals were like, because...
Music angry up the blood?
Well, the culture back then, they were like, well, what the hell's with these guys with long hair? And it was just full-on dead shit footy bogans going, what the hell, any alternate thing. So, you'd go to the pub after your gig and you'd nearly get 10 shades of shit punched out of you. Or, I was telling my girlfriend the other day, pulling into a truck stop on the way to Queensland, and we all got out of the, thing, we'll starve, and all got out of the tour van, walked into the truck diner, old school, like, truckers diner in 1990, and it was like, we just all filed it back straight into the van again, because we realised if we walked in there, we weren't coming out in one piece, that kind of thing.
With doing the music as much as you've done, how do you sort of find that balance between doing family stuff, working a real job, and still being able to get out and do the music and tour? And
pretty hard. Some would say it contributed to the downfall of my long-term relationship. But, like I see some of my kids' friends' parents and stuff, and, they're all out playing golf every weekend and going away for footy trips and shit like that. And to me, it's the same. Like, I have been touring a lot the last couple of years because that was a conscious decision to throw myself back into it and get back into it again, because I needed that in my life. I was pretty miserable, so I needed some sort of positive thing going on, so I just went, right. But, it keeps you poor, but it costs a lot to have a golf membership at a nice club too, that kind of thing. And so I just equate it to that. It's like, just you got to have a passion or a hobby. And I'm suspicious of people that don't have one.
What are they doing with their time?
Like.
Do you find that it's quite common in the musical community, I guess, where people talk about mental illnesses, and it seems to be fairly intrinsically linked with, I guess, trying to be creative but not having a reward or an outlet for it, I guess, is sort of a thing there.
It is something I think about. I wonder if if people with mental illness are drawn to more creative pursuits. Or the creative pursuits and the lack of reward breeds mental illness. Or maybe it amplifies it. I don't know. But it is certainly prevalent in the music industry. You probably know the statistics. The suicide rate's pretty high. And all the rest of it. And, the mortality rate for musicians is not real good either, and that's for various reasons. There's several
cliches built into the lifestyle.
There's that, but also, I don't know, like having spent, it's not so much now because there's no smoking in pubs, but I remember, playing, especially pubs with low roofs, and you'd look out and just go, holy crap, there's just this mist of cigarette. And you're breathing all that in, and bands in the 70s and 80s that were playing 4 or 5 nights a week. And they're breathing that in if you don't smoke. Guess what's going to happen?
That's the work environment.
But, and also there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of travelling. There's a lot of time between sound check and the gig. And so people get bored and you're in an industry where you get paid in alcohol. So, there's always, especially in the old days, it was like 2 cartons of beer was kind of standard for a rider. So people drink, and then people do drugs and whatever, and that leads to a whole nother thing.
It's sort of, is it even logical to think that you could make a career off music these days? Like, is it even
I don't know if it's...
There's no money in actual product now, is there, in terms of music? It's all on merch and touring and...
So it's kind of a tough one, because I do know younger bands that have done it. So... it is.
You never want to discredit all the hard work, obviously, but there's a huge streak of luck to...
Oh, of course, but there always has been. I think you could always sort of... There was enough gigs around years ago you could churn out a very basic living if you wanted. Playing music. That has disappeared.
Was that still playing your own music, or was this again pub circuit doing covers?
But I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like in Sydney in the 80s, most of the bands were originals. There was heaps of original bands around, like so many. The cover thing came in probably late 80s, early 90s. Started creeping in and stuff. I think you can still make a living out of it, but you just, there's a lot of luck, a shit ton of hard work. You just got to basically put your life on hold and go, I'm going to tour. Like the guy that put out the Daredevil records in the early 2000s. He now manages a band called Hockey Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Not my bag at all, but they've just sold out like
I know the young kids love them.
Yeah, they've just sold out Emmel Theatre.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of unimaginable back then.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I guess they're playing these big shows, whereas I saw Roast Tattoo at in one of the first gigs I ever saw was Roast Tattoo in a pub in like 1985.
Yeah.
But they were playing, instead of playing an Emmel Theatre, a band like that, they would just play pubs in every corner of every city. They'd play like 7 shows.
Yeah, 7 intimate shows instead of the one or 2 bigger shows.
Yeah. So, I don't know as financially if that's better or worse or whatever, but
yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of an all or nothing investment, really, isn't it? You're either going for everything or you're left to your own devices. And most people who are musically inclined maybe tend not to have that backup plan built in. Did you have a backup plan?
Yeah, I got a trade and all that.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. It's I always had the backup plan, I guess. How much I relied on. Well, I nearly got kicked out of my trade because white trash was happening and I was still an apprentice and I'd had so much time off TAFE that they were like, basically, if you have one more day off TAFE, you're done.
Don't come back.
They said, we know you're passing, but you got to have X amount of attendance and you are right on the borderline. One more day will push you over.
Yeah.
So,
You've sort of made it harder for yourself as well, doing heavy music too, I guess, in a sense. It is...
Yeah, I guess, but we were still touring, and that was the problem. Like we were out of town, so I wasn't attending TAFE. I remember taking 3 weeks off work without pay because I'd already used up all my holidays.
And you wanted to was happening, whether you...
Yeah, I was like, fuck this, I'm going. I hate this job. And there was that. So if you're in a bigger band, God knows what it would have been like, if you were touring even more flat out.
Do you think you'll just keep touring? You said you've made a bit of an effort to go back into it. Is the plan now just to go Lemmy style until you die on stage, or are you going to...
I don't know. I'm amazed I'm doing it. I'm amazed I'm doing it now. I remember when I was 16 playing pubs and going to see the Celibate Rifles and the Rocks and bands like that, you know, in the mid-'80s. I was probably like 86. I started going to shows pretty regularly. Hey, no photo ID. And going, God... these guys must be almost 30. That seemed like total relic. Like it just seemed unimaginable. And I'm now 47 and still doing it. And I just go, how the hell? But, I also remember my dad being a big Stones fan and my parents one day having a conversation because there was a thing on the news going on about how the Stones were about to embark on a world tour in this must have been like 81 or 82 or something. And, Mick Jagger's nearly 40. That seemed ludicrous for rock and roll, you know?
You were saying before you don't write stuff for Daredevil specifically, but when you're writing songs now, are you thinking, well, that's a Neptune song, that's a...
Yeah, I kind of sit down and write to order now. Yeah. It's like I actually haven't been writing much the last couple of years, which is pretty stupid. Yeah. But it was like, I know there's a Neptune album. We're in the process of writing and recording that. So I basically sat down and wrote some stuff and went, right, okay.
You generally throw on whole songs or riffs more?
A bit of both.
Or a bit of both,
yeah. I've got one song on there so far this time.
Yep.
We've probably got 2 or 3 more left to write. I'll probably sit down and write a bunch of riffs or maybe a whole song and throw them to Fox because it's Fox's band. It's his project.
Yep.
So I just throw stuff out there, and if he wants to use it, excellent.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to use it, that's totally fair enough as well.
Do you miss having a project that's yours? It's like, is that a thing you'd like to do? Or
yeah, it is. But at the moment,
project sort of deal.
At the moment, I'm kind of digging not doing anything because. When it's your band, it's a lot of work. There's so much work involved. And at the moment, I've got young kids and other dramas going on. I don't have the energy or the time for it.
Would you do it as a live band, or would you prefer just to do a studio sort of project?
Nah, I like playing live.
Yeah.
I do love recording. Yeah. More and more as I get older, I love recording. Now I know my way around a studio a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just like playing live still. Yeah. I like making an ass of myself in front of an audience, basically. Show pony or whatever the hell. Feed my ego. I don't know. Choose your abuse on why I like that. But
yeah. You've been in a ton of bands now. not so much do you get recognised, but do you have any concept of a position of your spot in sort of like Oz rock history? Is that
Not really.
not really? It's not a, no.
It's it just comes in waves like that stuff. Like in a certain scene, I guess I'm known. To a certain generation of people in the music scene, I'm known.
Yep.
But you ask a 25-year-old kid who I am, they're not going to know.
Yeah,
they're just going to go some old bloke who gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
There's a certain age, because I think we were trying to describe bands you'd been in at some point. We're like Buffalo and all this stuff. At a certain age, it's just
The Buffalo gig the other night, the average age would have been probably like 50.
yeah.
You know, there was some younger kids there and stuff. There was like kids younger. Well, I say kids. I'm 47. There was probably guys there in their early 30s that have discovered proto metal and all that stuff. So they were there for that. But there was people there well in their 60s.
Yeah, I came late to the Buffalo game. I got Volcanic Rock at Beaumont Street Beat when that was still running towards the end of that. But
I didn't even. I remember seeing the records around when I was a kid. I remember one of the guys in White Trash playing them to me when I joined that band, but I didn't really sit down and hear them until like the late 90s. I was in my late 20s. And
you got recommended to Buffalo, like someone you knew sort of suggested you to them? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't go looking for it. I didn't even know they'd been auditioning guitarists. But they'd auditioned a few guys. Yeah, I didn't even realise that the other guitarist wasn't in the band anymore or anything. It was just like, the first I heard about it was when they rang me up and said, "Do you want to audition?"
Yeah.
So
you were pretty keen right from the outset on that one?
Yeah.
Tough stuff though, I remember you saying a couple of...
Yeah, John, trying to mimic someone else, because those records are so ingrained in their audience's mind that you really got to nail it. Yeah. Otherwise...
There's no one taking a chance on Buffalo now. Anyone who's going knows Buffalo and wants to hear the songs done
properly.
That way.
And if I was going to see Buffalo, I'd want it. I'd want that too. So I just kept that in mind and went, well, I've got to nail it. And then I'm trying to learn his stuff going on. He plays pretty unorthodox in places. So trying to learn that, even though his style was kind of similar to mine in some respects. Yeah, in others I was like, what the hell? There's a lot of threes.
Yeah.
Groups of three, which is weird. They don't play a riff 4 times, it's 3 times.
3 guys,
things like that. So, it's kind of cool though. I'd say some of his style has seeped into my playing, having to learn a lot of those solos and all those riffs.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Adds to that palette that you've got to draw on, I guess. Yeah. So what sort of stuff outside of music keeps you sane? Obviously, you like records, you sort of do on your Instagram record challenge at the moment.
But it's all music related. I'm just into music. That's all I've ever really given a crap about, and that's it. Like, I found my thing really early. I was like 4 or 5 and went, yep, this is it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's out of sheer stubbornness, stupidity or what, but that's just my thing. Nothing else gets me going. I was never into sport. I played a little bit here and there, but I just... I was into martial arts a little bit when I was in my late teens, but beyond that, I really should have a broader outlook on things, but I just don't. It's really dumb and boring. I like cars.
Yeah, I was going to say, surely cars have to be...
Yeah, old cars, but I'm sick of working on them. I'm just over it.
How you coping with the selling of your beloved...
Fine.
Yeah.
I had that car 11 years and I'd owned a string of old Holdens before it. I think I've done my dash. But, I found myself on Facebook the other day trawling buy and sell car pages. So, it could be a thing again. I need a garage. If I get a garage, it will probably be a very real possibility that I'll get back into.
What car was that, just for people who might be listening?
I had an old HQ Holden. I've owned a bunch of old Holdens.
Venetian blinds in the back there and everything, wasn't it?
Most of pretty much all 70s era Holdens. I've owned like 5 or 6 of them, I think, over the years.
Yeah. That's your go-to. Is that what you'll be looking for on the used cars again?
I might go for something different this time, but the thing is with those, I know them back to front, inside out, and upside down, so I just know what...
Is that the attraction to them? You're comfortable with them? You know how they...
It's kind of the attraction now.
Yeah.
I just dug them early on, and then, had one. I'd only had it 6 months, sort of rebuilt it, did all this, and then it got written off through no fault of my own, I might add. So then I got another one, and then had that... couple of years, and then that got written off through no fault of my own.
Yeah,
they just kept upgrading, and owned an old Monaro. That when you could still almost afford to buy them.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you could afford to buy them. I bloody bought one. I'm not rich. You'd have to be rich now to buy one. But yeah, you know.
Yeah. You still doing merch works as well? You were doing a lot of...
Yeah, I did merchandise for a day job for a while, for a few years. Yeah, if it comes up, they ask me to do the odd thing now and again. If I'm available, I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Last thing they asked me to do was Delta Goodrum. I wasn't available, unfortunately. I would have done
Sadly.
it. I've worked for her before. She was fine.
We'll touch on, I guess, just some more topical stuff to finish up. With the Me Too sort of environment now, coming up through the Sydney metal scene, I can't imagine there was heaps of female members of the audience.
Sort of. If the more wimpier metal bands, yes. Because by then Bon Jovi was real big, you know. Yeah. So and Skid Row and bands like that.
Metal crossover.
So yeah, there was a bit of that.
Yeah.
You'd go to the hair metal gigs, and there was lots of women.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the thrash gigs, not so much.
Yeah. What about? I see a lot of stuff on the festivals now where a band will call out the festival because they've got a lady singer in the band and they're not getting paid as much as anyone else.
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
Apparently.
Oh,
have you seen anything like that yourself doing, around the traps?
No.
Nothing like that? No.
I don't know. Obviously, Lauren from Neptune Power Federation is female.
Yeah.
She's our singer. I've got no problem.
Does it help you get onto gigs? Is that the...
I don't know. She's a fantastic vocalist. That's all. It was like...
Surely that's got to be the main thing, yeah?
That's all I care about. To me, it's just about the music. Anything else is just so bullshit secondary. It's so far secondary that it just doesn't matter.
Do you think it's a valid place to bring up those? I mean, obviously, people who are directly affected by it will use music to, I guess, address that sort of stuff. But
yeah, it's fair enough. If they want to use that as their creative outlet to voice their opinion, that's fine.
Yeah.
Whether people choose to listen to it or not. I guess if you're an amazing band and you're bringing across that message, fine.
Yeah.
If you're a terrible band and think people should listen to it just because the message is right, well, no, be a politician or something. Be an activist.
I think metal
Your
guys
music blows, I
think metal guys get a bit of a wider berth, a wider tolerance as well. You've got like Varg Vikernes and guys like that. You still want to listen to those old Burzum records, but you don't want to... give any sort of credence to his insane...
You sort of, I don't know. It's hard to draw a line between a person's beliefs and their music. And this conversation actually came up at the pub the other night. They were talking about Destroyer 666 and how that guy's a bit of a racist and all that.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of stuff on Brooklyn Vegan webpage. Used to be Invisible Oranges.
Oh, right, okay.
Did a review of one of their shows and he was...
going on, and as he does. But in that respect, okay, the guy's a jerk, whatever, and that's up to you. If you can't separate that, that's fine. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
To me, that's fine. If you don't, but and I'm a little bit like that as myself. I'm like, well, yeah, that makes me not want to listen to him.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I love Miles Davis. I'm a huge Miles Davis fan, and that guy's an A-grade prick.
Yeah.
Like he was he bashed his wives and all this shit. The guy's a jerk, but I love his music. What can I do? You know,
it's a tricky one, isn't it?
I mean, it's kind of easy if you're sort of on the fence about a band and go, oh yeah, but that guy's a racist or whatever. So it makes it real easy to just go, pfft.
Yeah. Dave Mustaine's like, well, he's a prick. I don't mind Megadeth, but I'm happy to call him Mustaine a prick. And,
So, it's a double-edged sword, I guess, with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would change about the scene as you see it at the moment? Locally, nationally, is there any point? Is it...
There's a million things I'd change. Get pokies out of pubs, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. There's just...
There's no magic wand,
the scene is what it is, you know? Like... It's always been there in some respects, and it's funny. Melbourne's got a great scene. Why has it got a great scene? I don't know. There's part of it.
They don't lock you out at 1 a.m.
Well, yeah, there's that. I've also of the opinion good bands breed more good bands.
Yep.
So if there's a lull in bands, well then, it's hard to sort
You hear
of...
that a lot. Like people put a lot of the blame on venues to say, well, there's nowhere to play. But how much of that is truth, and how much is it people just not getting out and doing?
My opinion on that is, okay, there's nowhere to play, and the reason that is because people don't go to gigs.
Yeah.
If people went to gigs, if pubs were packed like they were with in the 80s with people going to shows, you watch, pubs would be ditching pokies, they'd be ditching the freaking... the family-friendly shit, it'd all be gone because there'd be 300 people in that room sipping truckloads of piss every night, and guess what pubs want to do? They want to sell beer.
Yeah, they just want to sell drunks, alcohol.
That's their business model.
Yeah.
So whatever is going to get people in there, if it's a bistro in there where they can charge a bit of rent for the bistro and then sell more beers, they'll do that.
Yeah.
If it's, like there was that many people going to gigs in the 80s where it was pretty standard for most pubs to have their own PA, their own sound guy, and we would just turn up. We would have to put someone on the door, and we would take all the door takings.
Yeah.
They would even put ads in the paper, in drum media, pay for all that shit. And the door was all yours.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a pub doing that now?
No.
Never in a million years.
So is there a way to build the scene back to that without the pubs being involved in the first place? Like, you have to...
People just want to see the music.
Yeah.
There are a few things, like what killed Sydney a bit was Triple J going national, so it wasn't Sydney-centric anymore. That was a bit of a blow, or more than a bit. And then not long after that, Pokies appeared as well. So it was like, it just seemed like there was one thing after another with Sydney.
Yeah.
Obviously, a trickle-on effect to Newcastle. Like, there's no local Newcastle station that play local bands.
Yeah.
There's not even a... to me, 2NUR even should have a show.
Should do, yeah.
Even a couple of hours a week of just... There's enough talent here to do it.
Yeah.
Why not?
I remember the
there you go.
metal
Maybe you
show
should
they
approach
used to
them.
have. Yeah, I was going to say. Remember the metal show they used to have on 2NUR?
I'd heard they had a metal show. I find that nearly impossible to believe after.
It was late. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Matt Green from In Eight Eminence used to DJ on it.
But, I can't see any reason why they couldn't do a show like that, 2 hours, on a, say, 6...
Does anyone listen to 2NUR anyway? Is it...
people might if they knew their mate's band was going to be on there, and then they'd hear other bands and whatever. If it was like, say, every Thursday, 6 till 8, and they're just going to play local stuff and play a bit of everything, obviously they're not going to play all metal or anything. They'd play, but that would go somewhere towards building the scene up. It might only be an extra, 20 people in a pub a week. Who knows? But
then you build another 20 on top of that.
Well, and if it's 20 people in a pub and they're drinking $10 or $20 over the bar, well, that pub's now making $400 extra a week or whatever. So that's paid someone's wages for the night.
That's right.
And it just
slowly chip away at it.
Yeah, I don't think many musos think business like enough like that.
Yeah. They sort of just want to just let us play.
Well, they can't look at the big picture.
And,
It's just... But, and the other thing was, pubs would run at a loss. Pubs, when they were having bands 4 nights a week, they would... I remember, sitting down with Jessica at the Lansdowne, and she now was booking home bake and all that, went on to do that. But I remember she sat me down in this... She liked this band I was in early 90s. And she goes, look, we'll put you on first on a Wednesday, see how you go. Put us on first on a Wednesday, there was 30 people there or whatever.
Yep.
And she went, I really like your band. I think you've got something. So I'll put you on a few other gigs. So we'll support first on Thursdays. So we're playing in front of 30 or 40 people for a few weeks that had never seen us before. And then she gave us, all right, you're going all right. He's pulling a little bit of a crowd. We'd maybe pull 20 people. So she was like, I'll put you first on a Friday with I remember it was like Hoss and someone. And it was like, oh, okay. But she goes, there's got to be 50 people in the room when you guys play.
Yeah.
Or you're back to Wednesday nights again, sort of thing. And so, we promoted it. And sure enough, there was 50 people in the room. Yeah. And so she was cool with that. So then I think maybe 3 weeks later, we played with the New Christ, same deal, first on, So, and then, she built it up because she was like going, well, one day, hopefully you guys will be headlining.
Yeah.
So that was, promoters in pubs actually thought like that.
Yeah.
Bizarre, but true. It's not a thing now.
Yeah.
Hasn't been a thing for freaking years.
And it's still really the best way to build an audience, isn't it? To go out and play.
Yeah. Hone your craft.
Yeah.
That's how you're not going to get good. You can, every gig's worth 3 rehearsals. I reckon.
when you do get to doing your solo album? Is it going to be a country style acoustic fest, or
there's never going to be a solo album because A, I can't sing, B, I can't write lyrics. No one wants to hear an instrumental record, especially me. So
not even going to make it?
yeah, nah. I guess I could maybe have guest. Yeah, nah. I'm really happy playing in bands. I dig. Yeah, like the camaraderie and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and having someone else to blame when shit goes wrong. Not being all on your head.
Yeah.
If it goes bad, well, then it's all your problem if you're the guy.
And that's still the main thing that brings you back to bands again, is just that good time with...
Yeah, totally. Like, especially at this age. Like,
the music's almost incidental in a way to...
Yeah.
Fun
like, it's just... Yeah, I couldn't imagine playing in a band with guys I don't like. It just wouldn't even be a thing now. I've done it in the past, like with guys I haven't got along with that great, but why? You know, like it's you're not going to make it or anything. It's just this is totally recreation. That sometimes we get on a bit of a roll and people want to see us recreate. I don't know.
You do get a lot of some of the, I guess, older guys in the scene who've been doing it for a long time, and they're still sort of waiting for that.
Oh yeah, they exist.
Oh, I'm going to make it now.
It's scary that they exist.
Yeah,
and
it's always funny when you run across them in the wild. And
and you know, I've even had guys kind of come up to me a bit jealous or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't know, dude.
do your own thing.
Yeah, just do your own thing, and if you really want to do it, just work really hard and do it a lot. You know, like far out. You know. People go, oh, blah, 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 you played some gig, 200 people there. You know, why are we still playing in front of 30 people at the pub? Yeah, well, I drove all the way to Adelaide to play in front of 7 people once. Have you done that?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't recommend it. It's not much fun. But, you know, there's been the shit, you know, there's some shit times as well.
Yeah.
It's not all freaking glory or, you know.
Did you learn anything when you were going flat knackers at it that you'd pass on to someone else who was like, you know, I want to make a go of doing music? Is there anything, or as you say, you just got to sort of feel it out yourself? Just do your best?
Yeah, just work hard because you got to do that. I've seen some bands not work hard and get all the breaks. That's even rarer than the bands that work hard and have the breaks.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like Haley's Comet or something.
Yeah.
It's
Is there a band you were in that you, like, looking back, you're like, well, why the fuck did that not take off?
Oh, yeah, a couple of them. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I bit of hindsight now, I can see it, but there, you know, there's, but a lot of it's just been in the right place at the right time. I remember one band we knocked back a tour with Front End Loader, and like that could have been. I reckon if we'd taken that tour, things might have been very different. May have been, may not have been. It might have been horrible. And then to top it off, we got offered not long after that. We got offered a tour with the New Christ, and we knocked that back. Yeah. Because various reasons, and things just could have been different. But you don't. Fuck, what do you do? You know, like you just got to go with what you had at the time. It's,
no point dwelling on it.
There's all these what ifs, but you know, I can sit there and go, I made some dumb decisions here and there. But you know, they were the decisions I made. So just don't do that dumb thing again. I don't know, but it's too late for that now. Yeah.
So what's coming up immediate future for you? Neptune's new album on the way?
Yeah, we've about to finish the gigging cycle. This weekend's our last show. We've just done Sydney and Melbourne. I don't know. I think we've got another Sydney show in August. Yep. Or actually, we have. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. But now
hopefully we won't wait too long to put these up, and it won't already be November or something.
I don't know. We'll probably do Canberra and stuff again in the meantime. Canberra and Newcastle maybe. Yep. But the focus is basically to finish writing and recording this album, and then we'll try and have it out by February. I think we leave mid-February. We leave for Europe. Yep. So.
You got picked up with a German label, press of the record.
Yeah, Oak Island Records in Germany. Yep. They did, I don't know, 250 or 300 on coloured vinyl even, which we didn't do coloured vinyl. But the pressing for our album here sold out really quick. Before we'd finished the touring cycle, we had no records left. Yep. So, we were like didn't really have the capital to repress, and they were like, "Oh, we'll pick you up." And,
yeah.
and I don't know, for some reason the Germans like us. We've got lots of press over there, and
Yeah.
we've been to a bunch of mags, mostly lined up through those guys, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, there's some sort of
Seems to have a bit of upward momentum anyway, Neptune.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with the next record. You know, this is album 4 already. I don't even understand how this has happened.
They seem to be coming out fairly quickly too. Like,
yeah, well, the first one was like it was only ever supposed to be a studio project.
Yeah.
It was Fox and Dean, and they were going to get guest guitarists for every solo,
Yeah.
and then they asked me to be one of those guest guitarists, and I ended up doing all of them.
the whole thing.
And then, then a few years later, they were like, "Oh, we're thinking about trying to play live," and so yeah, but the singer on the first record lived in America, so we needed to get a singer, and
Someone local.
all of a sudden, the second album came out, and we started playing live, and then it was like, well, we better do another record, so we've done that, and now it's like, well, now we're going to do another record. So it sort of seems like it snowballed, but there was a bit of sort of lead up for a couple of years where nothing really happened.
It seems
that
to
one
be
record.
sort of self-perpetuating itself. Obviously, they're not running at a severe loss here or anything like that with running the band.
Nah, it's ticking over.
Yeah.
It's we've got to put our hand in our pocket to tour a bit, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So what? Get a weekend in Melbourne. That's the way I've always looked at touring. It's like, well, if we can make enough money to pay for the hotels or something, that's fine. Just get a weekend away.
We got Witch Skull there signed with Rise Above, is it?
Yeah,
Did you see any sort of flow on for that for other local bands, or it's just an
I
anomaly
think
as
it was
what
a
it
bit
is?
of a one-off.
Yeah.
I think
Just the strength of that music seemed to speak to. It seems right into
Yeah.
Rise Above's.
I'm hanging here the
Market.
second album. It's out really soon for those guys.
Yeah.
And they got their touring cycle begins, I think, the end of July.
Yeah.
So
They'll be hitting Europe and everything.
I don't
with
know,
Rise
but there's
Above.
only 3 of them.
Yeah.
I can't see why they shouldn't.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. They definitely should.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful. All right, that's pretty much everything I've got there, man.
cool.
Killer.
That was pretty good. Prattled on lots.